All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks so much for being with us. I am back. I have returned. I have come back from my busyness, I suppose. I've been really busy. That's why there's been a lack of a show. It started on Thursday. Last Thursday wasn't a show then because of just a lack of material. And then Friday, all night Thursday, I was busy working on stuff. And then Friday, I was busy working on stuff, planning stuff. And then I took a trip over the weekend to do some recon and some intel gathering and attempt to get some footage and whatnot for the film. I'll tell you all about that here in a bit. I got some very interesting stories to relate to you all. So definitely want to stay tuned in here tonight. Thanks for being with us. This is the Tuesday edition of the show. September 18, 2012 into September 19, 2012. And thanks so much for being with us. I'm glad to be back and talking with you here tonight. We got a lot of news to get into. We've got emails to get into. We got book reading to get into. I got stuff to tell you I got to talk about. So definitely a full show here tonight. Last night, however, I had every intention of doing a show last night. And I had something happen to me that's never happened to me before in 5 years of doing radio. I actually, I think that's what it was. I think it was just a combination of just, irregular sleep schedules and sleeping during the day. And a lot of times staying up all night and working on stuff. And I don't know, 5 years of stuff and just exhaustion from my activities over the weekend. I actually fell asleep at the wheel last night. Not literally in a car, asleep at the wheel on the radio show here. I mean, not even kidding you. It was Metal Moonbat Monday, as it always is. If you can fall asleep, let me put it to you like this. If you can fall asleep during Tony Iommi's jackhammer guitars from Black Sabbath, cranked, I mean, literally, I had the shit on crank. I had that shit cranked up. I always have it cranked up over here, pre-show music and stuff that I play before the show. Gets me hyped up and gets me going and gets me ready and get in the mood to do the show, So on Monday nights, we always have, it's just a running tradition of ours. For years, we've done it. Metal Moonbat Monday. We just play metal on that night, So I had Black Sabbath and stuff cranked up, Megadeth, I was doing my news gathering, and I had everything set to, set on all the music set to play and the intro music and all that ready to go. And I don't remember anything. I remember I was doing news gathering, and Black Sabbath was on, and I think I woke up at that had to be like 12:30 or something, I think, p.m. Central Standard Time. And I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, sat up, I'm like, what the hell is going on? Confused. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't really know where I was at, kind of. I was just totally exhausted, and I was like, what the hell's happening? And I kind of looked over, and I was like, why isn't anything playing on the screen? And I looked and saw, well, what was the last thing that played? The intro music. Why did the intro? Oh, shit. I fell asleep at the wheel. I was flat exhausted, man. I had nothing left to do a show. That's never happened to me before. So, but I am feeling better. So I got some sleep last night. So I feel like I'm back to my normal self again. Whew. Exhausted. But you know what? That's what happens when you get out into the field, and, I enjoy it. I wish I had unlimited funds to be able to. If I had unlimited funds to be able to go out into the field more often than I do, then I'd be able to have these films cranked out a lot more. But I just try to do what I can when I can, and that's really all you can do sometimes. But I'll definitely be telling you all guys all about that here tonight on the show. My website where this broadcast originates from is theglobalreality.com. That's theglobalreality.com. You'll find all things pertaining to my work up there. The most pertinent thing right now I have to tell you about up there that's up at the website, two things. Number one is we have have just a couple of days, 2 or 3 days left on our Indiegogo campaign. This is the second one we've had, and we're still coming up short, folks. We've got to meet this goal. I hope that after I tell you what I have to tell you tonight, it may spawn some of you, hopefully, to donate more. We have just a couple of days there left on the Indiegogo campaign. We have all kinds of perks you can claim there from the $25 level, $50 level, $100 level. What we really need is the executive producer, somebody to come in at that level, but they're all up there. Please go and help us get as close to that goal, if not the entire goal, within the next couple of days, folks. We need your help right now to get this done, especially in light of the new information, things I'm going to tell you about tonight that I found out over the weekend, just some just mind-blowing stuff, but also some stuff where I was just like, shit, I should have known, you know? I was really frustrated at this one point I'll tell you about. It's just like it came out. A buddy was waiting on me outside, and I came out the door of this visitor center place, and I was just fucking cut. I know this woman, when she told me what she told me, I know she saw my face turn beet red right in front of her, and she probably wondered why. And I just walked out of this place cussing, because it was just, look, this is like I told my buddy, and this is what I tell everybody, it's very hard when and I know all of you out there on some level can relate to this, knowing what you know when you have this kind of information, it becomes very difficult after a while to not see, or at least attempt to see, everything in the world through the conspiratorial lens. Now, that could be detrimental sometimes, because sometimes, you don't need to do that. But what's funny is I'm starting to less and less, think that you shouldn't always look at everything through that lens. Because sometimes you have a tendency to go overboard, so sometimes you want to try to reel it in a little bit, And so that's what I try to do. And to me, that's something I've tried to do as I've gotten older, is trying to reel a little bit of that in. But it seems like every time I do that, it just ends up in the end being something I should have seen coming and would have seen coming had I been viewing it through that normal conspiratorial lens and not put that filter on where, because, sometimes you want to think maybe things are just as they are and that there's not always some underlying conspiracy of things. But God damn it, every time I try to do that, I end up finding something out that just proves more information towards the grand conspiracy of things. It's just unbelievable. But anyway, we've only got a couple of days left up there on the Indiegogo campaign for the Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1. Please help us reach that goal, folks. We've had over 12,000 views on the video, tons and tons of likes on the page of these campaigns. I've seen it shared hundreds of times on Facebook. I mean, there's so many people talking about it, interested in it, but nobody seems to be able to just give the small amount each. We just could get a lot of hands working on this, we'd be okay. But again, as I said, hopefully this stuff tonight will inspire some of you to help us get this film funded, because after I found out the more stuff, it was already important, but to me now, after the stuff I found out this weekend, it's just even more. I was right about so many things, and the other things I didn't know how right I was. But I was talking to my buddy on Friday night, and he works gun shows and stuff on the weekend and sells guns and stuff. And he didn't have anything going on this weekend. And he was asking me, he's like, "Hey, when are we going to take a trip down to South Central Texas and go check out Lake Buchanan down there you were telling me about?" And I said, "Well, what are you doing this weekend?" "I'm not doing anything." He's like, "Well, I'm not doing anything." So, all right, well, let's see, let's cruise down there. So we kind of made a spur of the moment decision to make the trip down there. And it's about a 5-hour drive. And he had some things going on Saturday during the day. So we decided just to take the cruise down there Saturday to Austin. Austin's about 4 hours or so. And Lake Buchanan there is about an hour and 20 minutes from that. But in case you don't know why I was interested in this area, back a few months ago, while doing research for this film, for the Rock Wall, I had, after gathering all this knowledge and sifting through it and going through it and analyzing everything, I started thinking about, okay, well, if these rocks were indeed quarried and blended together from different stones, and we know from the analysis of the samples of the rock wall stones that is indeed the case, then these had to have been quarried from somewhere, because these type of rocks don't exist in abundance here in North Texas, in the area of Rockwall, in the area where I live. It's not really rocky up here at all. And so I was digging. I was looking at some different stuff, and I'd seen this thing called Behringer Hill referenced, and I started doing some digging into that, and it became its own rabbit hole, because I found out that about the cover-up concerning it, and how Edison and Westinghouse, the guys who stole Nikola Tesla's inventions, sold them to J.P. Morgan, then had them shelved. They had bought this area. And what was interesting about this Behringer Hill thing to me, and it's down in South Central Texas, and I started finding that they have the largest concentration of all of the exact type of stone used in the rock wall down in that area. And you can go to Wikipedia to get more background on this. You can go to a Wikipedia page. I mean, it's got some pretty good Barringer Hill, Behringer Hill. And this, before they built the Lake Buchanan on top of this thing in 1938, Edison and Westinghouse had bought it because they were interested in a lot of the rare earth metals and some of the radioactive elements and stuff, yttrium, other things that were found down there, where they had purchased this area, and they wanted to find, some new elements for their light bulb. So they purchased it and used it for a period of time. And then once they got what they needed out of there, Roosevelt, the New Deal, and that whole thing, they came in just like they did the TVA and Alabama and everywhere else, built these dams, flooded out these areas. And in all these locations where that happened at, Alabama included, there were all these archaeological sites there that just happened to get covered up and flooded during that time. And so when they built this Lake Buchanan, they basically ran the Colorado River, and it's basically, from what I can tell from going down there, this, in my opinion, a giant asteroid hit this area millions of years ago. There is literally flattened rock formations that look like impact formations just everywhere on the side of the road. I've never been to a geologically rich and active place like this anywhere in my life, and had no idea that there was anything like that even close to me. I mean, within 4 or 5 hours distant from Rockwall, folks, there is no question in my mind that this indeed is the quarry location for the Rockwall stones. After going down there, there's no doubt whatsoever. I got some pictures. That's another part of the story I'll get to here in a bit. But so after studying this Behringer Hill thing and finding out about the connection with Westinghouse and Edison, finding out that something like, 10 or 12, maybe even more than that, of the elements found in the Rockwall stones are found in abundance here in South Central Texas in this area. And so they started building the lake. They thought we were going to have more time to fill it up. I read some stories from some local yokels down there who talked about the government secretly mining the uranium for Fat Man and Little Boy down there. And this mine shaft near Behringer Hill that had all these rare earth metals 3 or 4 of which have never been identified anywhere else on Earth, folks, than down in this area. And like I said, I mean, it was just mind-blowing to be boots on the ground down there. But unfortunately, Behringer Hill has been buried under the lake since 1938. But they've had an ongoing drought down there since 2008. It's interesting, this drought coincides with another very interesting event, which I'll get to here in a bit. So me and my buddy get down to Austin Friday night, and it's already nighttime. We're like an hour and a half or something out from there. So we decided we'll stay in Austin for the night, then we'll get up the next morning. We'll drive out there. And every time I haven't been to Austin in about 5 years. I fucking hate that town. I'm sorry. No offense to any of you that live there. We have some good people, good listeners down there in Austin, but I just can't stand the place. It used to be cool back in the day, but it's just turned into, it's just been taken over by the slime balls. That's all, as most cool places usually are. So, but every time I've been to Austin, I've always seen just the most ridiculous, insane chemtrails, the likes of which you never see anywhere else. I mean, Austin people can attest to that. You guys just get some of the most insane fucking chemtrails, and I got pictures of those as well. And so I checked the forecast. There wasn't any forecasted rain for down there in that area, South Central Texas, where Lake Buchanan is or anything. But we got into town, started seeing all these crazy chemtrails, and you understand they've had a drought down there forever, folks. They've gotten no rain in years. I start seeing these crazy chemtrails. I told my buddy, oh, shit, man. They know we're coming. And he was like, what? What are you talking about? What do you mean? How can they know we're coming? I'm like, look, dude, look at those chemtrails. He's like, what is this? Okay. Why does that mean they know we're coming? I'm like, they know we're coming. I'm like, we're going to get fucking rained out tomorrow. He's like, oh, no way, dude. It's going to be nice. It's fucking beautiful today. Look at this, Weather's nice. It's going to be cool. Don't worry about it. You're just being paranoid. No, I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, man, they're weather modding the fuck out of this shit. They know we're coming. They know we're coming to get this footage. They know what we're coming to try to do. And sure enough, we got up the next morning. It was pissing buckets. I mean, buckets, to the point where it was like flash flooding within a matter of minutes because of how little rain they've gotten down there in so long. So it's just nasty mess. Driving conditions are terrible. We're trying to get down there and whatnot. And, well, I tell you what, I learned one lesson from this trip. I have got to get some waterproof equipment, waterproof enclosures for my cameras, waterproof lenses, that kind of stuff. I've got to put that on my wish list. It's a must-have, especially after this weekend. I didn't have it, and it fucked me. I wasn't able to get very much footage at all, but that's only one reason. The rain was only part of the reason. I'll get to the other reasons here in a bit. But the rain was only part of the reasons, but I was able to get a little bit of footage. But anyway, so we drive down there, and we were going to go to this town, Lalano, which is near there. There's an element called Lalanite that's found in Lalano. It's about 26 miles from Lake Buchanan. It's the only place it's found in the world, of course. Something happened down there, a major geological event, I believe it to be a major asteroid impact at some point. And it just made it a mineral-rich area. Again, zircon being the most predominant element found there. It's also subsequently the most predominant element found in the rock wall stones, along with the feldspar, granite, of which there's just, as soon as we started getting down there, folks, just rocks everywhere. Everywhere. Big granite blocks. My buddy's getting a new house next year. Talking about wanting granite tabletops. You can literally go down there with a truck and get as much granite as you want for your granite tabletops all day long. Expensive shit. I got some rock samples and brought some back, and let me tell you, the magnetic signature of these stones is off the chain. It's off the charts, just completely off the charts. The magnetic signature of these stones are incredible. I brought back a few big chunks of quartz, calcite, granite, just all kinds of, it's just literally everywhere, every 2 feet. I mean, in fact, you can't even see dirt because everything is just rock. And you can tell that when they started making this area habitable, they literally had to just grind through rock to make any sort of habitable areas. So when we start getting, what was ironic about this monsoon rainstorm just happening, you got to understand, folks, they had signs down there that said stage 2 water restrictions. And we talked to the local yokels, and everybody was going crazy. Oh, my God, I can't believe it's raining. People were out doing rain dances in their front yard and shit, going crazy. They hadn't had any rain down there in a long, long time. And it just so happened that, coincidentally enough, the day we're coming to get our footage, they get the fucking monsoon of a lifetime. You're just not going to tell me it was a coincidence. So we get down there, and we pull up into this area, because it said, we started seeing signs that said Buchanan Dam, and that's where Barringer Hill is located. They built the dam right at the area where Barringer Hill once was, during the days of Westinghouse and Edison, before the lake was flooded and it was covered up. But subsequently, the water table down there has been dropping for years, and I mean, everything's for sale down there. All the properties, they're intentionally killing that area. You got that impression real quick that somebody down there's trying to kill that area. So we pulled up in this place, and it looked abandoned, but it looked like it was a former visitor center and whatnot. But everything was just abandoned and shut down. So we drove around the lake and drove around and found several boat docks. We found a boat dock that hadn't had water near it in so long that the water was at least 400 yards from where this boat ramp was, and there was overgrowth and plants growing up over it, which you could tell had been growing for years. So this water table has been dropping out there, and I think by design. I think they've been intentionally weather modding and causing the drought, causing this water table to collapse and drop. Subsequently, locals are, the cancer rates are exploding down there. People are dying of 5 and 6 types of cancers. And nobody down there knows anything about any of this stuff. I asked people about Barringer Hill. Nobody knows anything about it. Never heard of it. Nobody knows anything. Or at least if they do, they're not talking. So we drove around the lake, and we drove up to this boat dock where there was, it was so far off from the water, and it was like pink granite and feldspar and quartz and it was just everywhere. My buddy went hog wild, man. He was getting his fucking bag and loading shit up. Like, dude, you're gonna load the car down, dude. It was just insane. I mean, why somebody has I could go down there every weekend with a truck. If I had some kind of big truck to haul shit in, dude, I could go down there every weekend with a truck and bring back enough granite and stone to fund my operation for the next 10 years. I mean, it's just fucking everywhere down there. It's ridiculous. And you know what else is everywhere down there? Deer. Never seen that many deer in my life. I started seeing all these signs that said, whitetail capital of the world. I mean, literally, we went down this one road looking for the dam. We kept driving around trying to find the dam. We couldn't figure out. We could see the dam, but we couldn't figure out how to get to it because I had seen pictures of people, walking across it, driving across it, and we couldn't figure out how to find it. And we were like, man, we're not stupid. We've driven around this thing 10 times. How come we can't find it? So finally we decided, we went down this road, and literally, man, my buddy had to slow down. We drove down this road for like half a mile, and there was like 50 to 60 deer in a span of half a mile. I mean, there were more deer down there than people, and they were not shy or timid at all. I got some great close-up shots of a few of them. And I started wondering if like I said, my theory is a giant asteroid hit this place millions of years ago. And these stones that I brought back have a high magnetic signature to them. There's no doubt in my mind that this is the reason why Dr. Wolf Goss from the University of Texas had a freak out and won't allow his findings to be published on the paleomagnetic survey of the rock wall until after his death, is because he could not account for the magnetic signature of the stones in the rock wall and why they had such a high magnetic signature to them. In fact, they have a magnetic signature to them that is greater than the magnetic field of the entire planet Earth. Now, how could that be? Well, if you had a giant asteroid that hit this area that caused all these rocks to be found, and again, a lot of these rare earth metals come from only one place, asteroids, and a lot of asteroids are very, very highly magnetically charged due to the metal content of the asteroids themselves. So I think that these stones were chosen because of their availability and also because of their highly magnetic charge. But I wonder if that has something to do with the deer, why there's so many animals down there. I know animals, especially deer, can be affected by, magnetic signatures and things of that nature. I don't know. Maybe that's it. But there's no question in my mind, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that this is the location and this is the area where the stones of the rock wall were quarried from. There's no better candidate. And with it only being 4 or 5 hours from Rockwall, there's no way in hell that this is not where it was quarried from. So we kept driving around looking for this dam. We could see it. We couldn't figure out any way to get over to it. It was really frustrating. We've already been driving around out there all day. We were kind of losing hope of trying to find this place, and we couldn't really find anybody to talk to that knew how to get there or anything. So we found this visitor center place, and I went in there, and I don't know, just, you know how sometimes you go in to talk to somebody and you can almost immediately get a weird vibe from them? That's how it was when I walked in this place. I got this vibe from this lady like she knew I was coming. It was just weird. And I asked her how to get to the dam. And I told her we were looking for Barringer Hill. And I said Barringer Hill 3 or 4 times. I was trying to get her to say something about it. She wouldn't even respond to it and acted like she didn't even hear me. And she said, yeah, well, you used to be able to go down to the dam. There's a road right down here on your right. You used to be able to just drive down there, and you could go out, and you could take a tour and walk across the dam and tour the hydroelectric plant and everything. She said, but Homeland Security took over in 2008, and it completely shut the place down. And they have a Afghanistan-style checkpoint down that road now with a nest of cameras everywhere, and you can't get to the dam. You can't get, and I just walked out the door. God damn it, motherfucker! I should have fucking known. There I was, not even trying to think about in those way of things. I knew that, if I had been on to this and I had found out about this, folks, we're talking about the world's largest cache of rare earth metals anywhere on the planet. Anywhere. That's ever been identified. Bigger than anything they have in China or anything else. And I said, well, did they give any reasons? And before I could even get the words out, she's just shaking her head. I'm going, well, did they give any reasons or an explanation? Did they say it was because of 9/11 or this, that? And as I'm saying it, she's just shaking her head, and she had nothing else to say. And I said, so is that all you have? Is that all you're going to tell me? And she said, can I get your zip code, please, for our sign-in sheet? I mean, she was just robotic. I'm like, that's all you're going to tell me? You're not going to tell me? Can I get your... I was like, oh, we're done here. Huh? Okay. Not helpful at all. And, Homeland Security, for whatever reason, has shut down all access to the Lake Buchanan Dam since 2008, which subsequently coincides exactly, ladies and gentlemen, to when the drought started down there. And they will not tell the local yokels any reason as to why they've shut it down. Think about it. Why in the world would Homeland Security need to take it? Now, I know the obvious answer is they'll say, oh, well, it's just because of 9/11. But when I asked her that, she said, no, that wasn't the reason. And so I was kind of curious. I said, man, I must be slipping. How did I not catch that in my research? How did I not know that this was closed down? You would have thought that I would have known that ahead of time. So I said, well, I must be slipping. I went and looked. And, folks, there is not, it wasn't that I was slipping. There is no information on this closure and this takeover of Homeland Security for any reason. But because it was just pissing buckets and none of my cameras are waterproof. My still picture camera is the body's waterproof, but the lens is not waterproof because those lenses cost a lot of money, and I can't afford the expensive lenses. So I wasn't able to get any video of any of the places around the dam. You can see way far back from. I got some pictures way far away from it, but like fucking maybe a half a mile away from it or something. But I found one thing on the internet, one little web page here. I'll read it for you. And it says 1/1908 Buchanan Dam closed. This is what Buchanan Dam looked like on Christmas 2007. And I can identify this picture as the place we pulled up in. It looked defunct and closed down. It's a complete shame that the Department of Homeland Security feels that shutting down one of my favorite rest stops will make the United States a safer place. This abrupt closing Christmas present to the area appears to have missed all the news outlets. So they kept this out of the media. The Lower Colorado River Authority would be the natural place for this, but being forced to abandon your new museum and evict the Chamber of Commerce isn't great publicity. So they built this brand new museum there just a couple of years before, and had the local Chamber of Commerce there. They all got ran out. So this brand new museum, I'm not kidding you. I saw this thing. I mean, it's a brand new building that they had built, a nice building they'd built just a couple of years before it. And Homeland Security said, we don't care. We're shutting it down. They kicked out the Chamber of Commerce. They kept it out of the media, and they've given no reason as to why it is they're doing this. Folks, I was right. This is a full vindication of all my hunches. There is no question that this is the location of the Rockwall stones and quarry, and there's no question that the federal government is in there running a secret project by this dam. They've closed it off to the public, and now that the table water is dropping and Behringer Hill is now exposed, the federal government is in there either hiding something or mining something or doing something else. I don't know. But again, it just adds to the conspiracy of this and the way that people were acting about it. It says, since 2001, walking out on the dam had been the norm for scores, was gated, restricted at the plaque. Before then, you could even go fishing at the base of the dam. That has since been gated, and the road was lined with Baghdad-style road barriers. Certainly the kind of security to make a 70-year-old civil engineering landmark stand out. The Buchanan Dam, completed in 1937, is 3,349 kilometers long and is of a multiple arch design. It was built to create a water reservoir and generate 51.3 megawatts of electricity. And I was just, at that point, I was just like, I came out of there after she told me that, and I was just like, unfucking believable. I should have known. But again, I was just like, damn, I'm slipping. Why did I not catch that? But then again, I come look, you go to a search, there is nothing, folks. I could find no information. There is no reason, no rhyme or reason, and no explanation as to why they have shut down Lake Buchanan Dam. Usually when they do something like this, they're very forthcoming with, we're doing this to protect against Al-Qaeda. See, that's what 9/11 did. Just like 9/11 gave them the ability to invade countries for antiquities, it's now given them the ability to shut down locations within the United States and claim homeland security and national security and everything else. Oh, we have to shut down access to these dams because Al-Qaeda may come and try to blow up dams. Right. Folks, even if Al-Qaeda did go blow up the dam at Lake Buchanan, do you know what the effects of it would be? Not much. Number one, there's not hardly any fucking water in the goddamn thing anyway. Number two, the Colorado River runs out the other side of the dam. The river would just absorb what little water would come out of the lake anyway. There's no rhyme or reason as to why they did this. Terrorism and Al-Qaeda and all those excuses don't add up at all. They've got checkpoint, Baghdad style, security cameras, a nest down there. This is 100% to keep people and interested parties out and keeping anybody from going over in that area now that the water table is dropped and getting any kind of intel, rock samples, or anything else. But we're going to go back at some point. And when we go back, we are going to rent us a boat. Because you can't get there by land, but guess what, Bubba? You can get there by water. So, as soon as we have the time and the money, we are going to get back down there and rent ourselves a boat. And we're just going to I got to get some waterproofing camera stuff as well. But we're going to drive up on the other side and see if we can get some footage of the exposed rocks there. This is just, it's just unbelievable. Between that and the exact types of rocks, 10 or 12 different types of minerals, right down to the rare earth metals found in the rock wall that are found in abundance here. There's just no question. I mean, when I got down there, I was blown away. I was looking at these stones going, man, I was more right than I knew I was. But I just had no idea that this was going to have any kind of tie-in. And what I found out, what's interesting about this too is, there's a little town out by Rockwall called Wiley, where my parents lived for years and years and years. I went to school there when I was younger. But right near Wiley is Rockwall's right near Wiley. And actually in Wiley is where they found the 2.5-ton garnet stone with these hieroglyphs on it that Congressman Ralph Hall, the CMP member, has at his home to this day. And right near there is where they built the dam, the Lake Lavon Dam, which subsequently has been closed down and shut off since 2001 as well. You usually could drive across that whole thing. You can't anymore either. There's so many other dams across the United States that don't have archaeological things connected to them. They're wide open. Are you going to tell me that it's just a coincidence? Are you going to tell me that it's all in my mind? That the dam at Lake Lavon, right next to the rock wall, right where they found all sorts of archaeological treasures and strange rocks and things of that nature, that one and the dam at Lake Buchanan where the Rockwall Quarry is, that just happens to be both of those taken over by Homeland Security. In fact, the, what do you call it? Or the people, not public works, the civil engineers, the Army Corps of Engineers, yeah. They actually had built this giant headquarters a couple of years ago out there in Wiley, not far from my parents' house. And my brother was asking me, why in the hell would they build this here now? The dam's shut down. Nobody's allowed to go out there and go anywhere near it. Why would they have to build this huge headquarters type place to house all these Army Corps of Engineers? And I didn't really have the answer at the time, but now I know what the answer is, because something's going on. They need to employ more people for whatever's happening here. Something's going. I don't know whether something's activating at these sites or what's happening, but again, when Dr. Wolf Goss from the University of Texas came and did the paleomagnetic survey of the rock wall, he found the magnetic signature. There's no radioactive signature of the rock wall stones, but the magnetic signature of them is off the charts. Same thing with the stones we brought back. We took a magnometer to them. They're absolutely off the charts. I had a friend of mine she's into crystals and stuff, and she was holding these stones going, my God, these are fully magnetically charged. So I think I can't imagine. I imagine what it looks like down there now after, 100 years or however long of civilization, and they're still being just literally every 2 feet, giant rocks and stones everywhere. I can imagine what that place looked like before the building of the rock wall, 50,000 or 50 million or 500 million, however many years ago that was, who knows. And because of these, these magnetically charged rocks from an asteroid impact, and already having this predominant magnetic signature, whatever that was, seemed to be of a tactical advantage. Maybe it was a tactical advantage and maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just a side effect. But I think it probably gave these builders the ability to be able to produce energy because of this magnetic signature, all kinds of things. But it was frustrating, man. I mean, between the rain and between, I just assumed from what I'd read online, we'd be able to walk right up to the dam. We'd be able to look over the dam and get pictures down there. Because now, if I go back, because of all the rain, I don't know how. I think they'd have to get a lot more rain than what they got yesterday or Sunday for the water table to go back up anytime soon. But that's my biggest worry, is that by the time I get over there and am able to get back down there or so, I'm just wondering if the water's going to be filling back up. That was one of the most frustrating things. And then to find out, conveniently, Homeland Security's got control of the place, and they've got cameras and all, got it all shut off. I wonder why. But, I forgot. They won't give us a reason why. So if they won't give us a reason why, and they won't go to the media with this, what am I and what are you supposed to assume is going on here, ladies and gentlemen? They know full well about the rock wall. They know full well about what the implications are for these stones. Because I'm telling you right now, if I get samples of the rocks from Behringer Hill and I get samples of the rocks from the rock wall and we get the analysis done and we find out they're the same rocks, came from the same quarry, Bubba, it's over. I'm going to be screaming from the rooftops. I'm going to be calling every goddamn corrupt fucking archaeological Discovery Channel, fucking, National Geographic, whatever. Screaming for rappers. But regardless of that, folks, I mean, this is what I'm telling you. We've got to reach the goal, and I've got to get this film done. I've got to have more funding for this. We only got $200 in so far, or $2,000 goal. That's gone. I had to use that already just to get down there and have expenses and all this stuff to do this. But I've got to have more cash. I've got to have more of a budget because I've got more places I've got to travel to, more recon, more information I've got to gather here. This thing just continues to increase in its importance because I wasn't so much trying to focus on the obvious cover-up of this, but there's no question. I mean, that came full frontal to me, folks, while being down there, is that, I was just trying to focus on getting to the bottom of this and getting the truth of it, but it came really, really right in your face, the harsh reality of the fact that there's no question. There is a massive cover-up of what is there at Behringer Hill, at Lake Buchanan. There's a massive cover-up of going on in any sort of connection, trying to find what this relates to and how it relates to the rock wall. There's no question this is a massive cover-up. And, just to be able to have the concrete analysis of the rock wall stones, which is going to, the only way we're going to be able to do that is to get this part one done. Then we can move on to part two, and hopefully some of our interested parties out there will come forward for a dig. But we have to do this. This has to go forward. This cannot fail. This cannot just not get made and not get done. Folks, we are past the point of no return here. There is no question. I have absolute proof that there was a massive cover-up going on here. I have absolute proof that they're hiding something about Behringer Hill and about Lake Buchanan. And, again, what I think it is, they admit, you can go and look at the Wikipedia, they admit this is the world's largest cache of rare earth metals anywhere on the planet. And if it's true what they say about the uranium being mined out of there for Fat Man and Little Boy, what alarms me about that is, well, think about this. All uranium and all plutonium, all this stuff is tracked and has been for years, this old technology, from satellites in space. This stuff puts out a high enough radioactive signature that the detectors and whatnot from space can detect where this stuff is located. So if anything is moved from one location to another anywhere on the planet, the guys at the National Reconnaissance Office or wherever it may be, they know where it's moving to. And I was thinking while we were down there, and I told my buddy, I said, well, think about this. If you needed to have all nuclear material, any nuclear material can be traced back to its source, just like a stone can be traced back to its source. You can't tell when a stone was carved by any dating techniques whatsoever, but you can tell how old that rock or stone is by radioisotopic dating and other dating techniques that date the decay of the radioactive isotope inside of the rock, things of that nature. I went to this Masonic cathedral in Guthrie, Oklahoma a few years ago, and they had this like Masonic seal emblem, thing hanging above this door, and it was carved from a piece of alabaster that came from the same quarry as the quarry of Solomon's Temple, and it was the only one like it in the Western world. And, I started telling my buddy, I was like, well, think about it. If they were just to detonate one of their own nuclear weapons in a city, it'd be pretty easy for them to trace where that came from. There would be a paper trail for that. But if you have a secret cache of uranium down here at Beringer Hill that nobody knows about, feasibly you could mine it and take it out in secret and create a weapon out of it that would be untraceable, that you could detonate anywhere, say a city in the United States, and blame on Iran as a pretext to invade Iran and nuke them off the face of the earth. And you'd have it cleanly done, and you'd have your false flag all tied up there, and you'd be good to go. There is a reason why Homeland Security is guarding whatever is there. Probably they don't want people going in there and, I mean, there's trillions of dollars. Trillions of dollars worth of rare metals under that lake, folks. Trillions. We could go in there tomorrow and start mining that stuff out. Drain the rest of that, but it's already low anyway. You could drain the rest of the part of that lake off and get in there and start mining that stuff out. Folks, you realize we could reset the national economy. We could pay off the national debt. We could put China out of business from the rare earth metals market. We could then take the market. We could turn things around overnight in this country. And all of the jobs that China has, turning, the process they use to separate the rare earth metals from the stock and in the manufacturing of the electronic goods, we could bring all those jobs here. But, of course, because our corrupt Bilderberg Group governor, Rick Perry, down here in Texas, is in bed with the Chinese and every other fucking commie there is, that's what I think this whole thing is. I think Rick Perry cut a deal with Homeland Security and with the state of Texas for them to take this thing over and shut it down so that nobody can go in there and do any mining, thus giving the Chinese their continued monopoly on these metals. That's what I think's going on here. Plus also to conveniently keep us from being able to get any hard evidence connecting Beringer Hill with a rock wall. It's funny, a couple of years ago, I guess it was 2009. At the time, I thought it was on, but I didn't know if there was any tie-in or not. But they were having a big teabagger thing out at South Fork Ranch, where they used to film Dallas at back in the day, the set of Dallas. That's pretty close to where my parents live. And Rick Perry wasn't there, but the same day when that was going on 4th of July, that's what I thought was interesting. It was on the 4th of July, and Rick Perry gave a speech on the steps of the old Rockwall Courthouse downtown, right in front of the where the little makeshift rock wall is that you see in my trailer for the film. So that was, I think that was 2008. Yeah, I want to say it was July 2008 when that was. And, of course, yeah, that's when it was. It was July 2008. Now, that's interesting because that 2008 as well is when Homeland Security came. So I was wondering if that was maybe, at the time I thought it was strange. Now looking back on it, I wonder if that was sort of some subtly veiled hint, some symbolic thing of him giving this speech. At the time I thought it was odd. He didn't say anything about the rock wall or anything, but there he is giving a speech right in front of the little representation of it where they took stones of the actual wall and concreted them together and made a little replica of it. But I was able to get a little bit of footage of some of the stones by the boat ramp where we got some rocks to bring home at, and I was able to get some pictures of some of the stuff down there. But I mean, it wasn't a complete loss. I wasn't able to get as much footage as I wanted, but man, just finding that out. And I mean, I really did leave there feeling that my hunch was correct. That this absolutely is the location of the quarry. That this is absolutely the best possible location. I mean, there was no other. I've looked high and low. There is no other geographical area and geologically rich area that it's possible these stones could have came from. And again, with there being no other locations anywhere in North Texas or anywhere in Texas, period, of any sort of rock formation like the rock wall where you find any of these stones, because that's the thing, when you look at how many different types of stone and rock there are down there in that area around Lake Buchanan. I mean, literally, you look at on the sides of where the boat ramp and stuff are, and there's literally 10 different types of minerals just laying there. And then when you look at the stones of the rock wall, you can tell that the stones of the rock wall were not just quarried out and put up there. No, it's exactly as the chemical analysis and the analysis that John Lindsay had done on these stones had determined, that they were geopolymers and that they were made of different types of rock mixed together for a certain purpose, much in the same way as someone would mix concrete. It's the same way they do when they make concrete or slate or anything, right? I take multiple different kinds of rocks and mix them together, and that's how they produce the type. Well, that's exactly what went on with the rock wall stone. Somebody took all these different types of materials, existing materials they had, figured out how to mix the right amounts of them together so that they would not degrade. I mean, this wall is almost indestructible. There are 90-degree angles, right angles. There's a watchtower, round, like tower part thing of the rock wall. There's an area of it that has the Pythagorean theorem built into it, folks. These are ancient masons, whoever they were, that had a high degree of sophistication, a high degree of knowledge, and I'm hot on the trail of this stuff now. I'm fired up more than I have been. So again, go to my website, theglobalreality.com. Scroll down there underneath the shipping banner there, and you'll find the Indiegogo campaign fundraiser there. We have about 1,800 left to go. If we could get all of that in here this week, that would be great. If we could get half of that in here this week, whatever. But please help me out, guys. I mean, I've been asking you to help fund this film. I'm trying to make you see how important this is. And after going down there this weekend and finding out that, my God, Homeland Security's taken over the whole area, folks, I was right. And I got to get back down there again to get more footage, get more pictures of these rocks, more samples. It's just, I've got to get this done. It's the most important thing I've ever done, and probably the most important thing I'll ever do. Because I get the impression ain't nobody else going to do this. They've killed that area down there. It's insane. There used to be all kinds of restaurants and businesses down there, all gone out of business. I got the impression they're really trying to turn it into a ghost town, turn it into a ghost area. I mean, there are hardly any living souls down there at all. It was just bizarre. This is our 5-year anniversary of the Global Reality. Next week will be the official date anniversary of the 5-year anniversary. We have a 5-year anniversary chip-in banner up there. right now at my website, theglobalreality.com. And we've only raised $120 of our $2,000 goal. I haven't been up here yelling and screaming at you about this. I hadn't been bitching about this, folks, but really, I continue to do the work. I continue to work my ass off and bust my ass and put my life on the line for this. And we got to have some reciprocation here. Please go there and make a donation if you can, large or small. Any amount helps. And please help us out. I had to use what money I had to get this done this weekend, so we're kind of running low. So any amount you can give us right now would certainly help. We also have the Radio Archives subscriptions on sale this month. Those specials will run until the end of the month. And we have the best deals you're going to get going on the archives right now. You can get yourself a subscription, get yourself a new one. You can get a 1-month pass for $20 right now, usually $30. You can get a 3-month pass right now for $50. They're usually $70. You can get a 6-month pass right now for $120. They're usually $160. And you can get a 1-year archive access right now that are usually $320 for $250. So any which one of those ways you choose to support us, please do so now, folks. I've got to get more cash in here, and I've got to be able to have more of a budget to get this done, and I can't wait another 3 or 4 months before I can make another trip to do this. So please help us out, theglobalreality.com. This is urgent. And I don't know what else to say. I'm at a loss for words, really. I was just, when we left there, I was just in utter disbelief in the car, shaking my head like, oh, my God. I should have expected it, but when she said that to me, it was the last thing I expected her to say. I wasn't even thinking in that frame of mind when she said, oh, you can't get down there. It's all closed off. They've got nests of security cameras everywhere. Homeland Security took it over in 2008 and shut it all down. I mean, this is a public works. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why they should have shut it all down. How come you can't have security and have it open for a certain amount of time per day and have security there? And, like they do every other site around the world, right? Isn't that what they do everywhere? You have the area is open for a certain amount of time a day. You can go in there and there's probably cameras and there's probably security and stuff, but that's security, right? That's to keep any bad things from happening. Shutting it down completely and setting up Baghdad-style checkpoints and security cameras and not allowing anybody over there at all, and giving no reason at all, and keeping it out of the media, folks, smells of a cover-up beyond anything. I don't care who you are or what you believe. You can argue all day about the who's and the what's and the why's and the what have yous and everything else. But one thing you can argue here is there's absolutely no question that there is a massive cover-up going on to hide whatever it is I'm on to. And I think it's not just the fact that this is the quarry of the rock wall. I think it's something much more as well. But I think if you unravel one, you're going to unravel the other. And that's why we've got to continue on doing this here. Let's see. I think we've got some emails that have been stacking up. Let's see here. Give it just a second. This person sent me a laundry list of links here. And yes, I've seen all these. I haven't talked about this yet, only because, to me, I think there's enough plausible and natural explanations than to get into some conspiracy about this. But Middle Yaya, that's this person's name, Live Science, Texas Lake, blood red. Daily Mail, river did run red. Chinese, yeah, I talked about that. Lake in France turns blood red. Lake in Africa turns blood red. Yeah, and of course, everybody says that this is, the sign of the apocalypse and the sign of this, that, and the other. Well, I think it may be a sign of the apocalypse, but I think it's in terms of what the apocalypse is. I think it's what I've been saying all along, and that it all has to do with the cyclical events of the sun. And any of these situations where, you have waterways of turning red can be attributed to the effects of radiation and electromagnetic activity from the sun. And I don't think there's any doubt that whatever has been predicted to happen in the future, great cataclysms and everything else, and even cataclysms of the past, have all happened on these cyclical natures regarding the sun. Of course, that's why you have all these ancient sites all around the world that are aligned to the equinox and the solstice and everything else. I was hoping to be able to go get. That's why I was kind of hoping we would get our funding in on our Indiegogo campaign this week. I was hoping to be able to go out this weekend and travel to another site somewhere. I wanted to go out to, this would be my only opportunity to do this, and I'm probably not going to get the funding in, so I'm probably going to be able to do it unless a miracle happens. One of you out there decides to be a hero and come through for us. But what I really wanted, feasibly for the film, is I wanted to be able to go to one of these mound sites this weekend because it's the equinox, and I wanted to be able to get footage of the sunrise at equinox over these mounds so you could just see for yourself. I mean, if anybody out there, hell, if any of you out there live around any mound sites, if any of you out there live close to, Moundville, Alabama, or what's the other one? Cahokia Mounds in southern Illinois near St. Louis, or any of the other locations, or the Serpent Mound in Ohio. If any of you out there live around those sites and you can get the sunrise and the sundown, or maybe the sunrise is more important, from any of these mound sites this weekend, the 22nd, please do so and send those to me. That would be fantastic help. The more the better. If we could get multiples, that would be great. But my point is it's one thing to say and to show the evidence that all of these different ancient sites are aligned to the solstices and the equinoxes and everything else. But for me, for the film, it just would have been so cherry, or would be so cherry, if we could get some footage of that sunrise at the equinox over these locations. I mean, my God, it's one thing to know that that's there, but it's another thing to show it. And I don't think anybody else has really done that in any film like this in the genre. So anybody that can help us out with that, please do so. This is from Lewis. He says, Michael Smerligo fan club. Oh, that was that, yeah, boy, I was rolling through the hood. Some brother shot me in the dick and the balls, son. No, not really. I shot my own self. I need to cut that. Anybody remember what show that was? I don't remember. If anybody remembers what it is, please cut that out and put that on YouTube for Louie. He thought that was great. He said, that was the funniest piece of fucking radio I've ever heard. I laughed so much I cried tears. Your merciless rendition was classic, and I was still laughing a day later. If you ever get on mainstream TV, you would give some of these so-called comedians a real run for their money. You must never change. Yeah, that's kind of hard. No, that's not true. I always change. I always change. I always evolve. But I'm always me, you know what I mean? I'll always be me, Louie, don't worry. I've always been myself, but I've always evolved and changed and grown. And I think if you don't grow and evolve and change, there's something wrong with you. But, there's always still that core base of who you are, and that's not going anywhere. The world needs some fucking humor. Let's hope Michael Smerligo's friends and families are not listeners of you, or you have basically destroyed his life. He'll need to change his name and get a lifetime supply of dick pills. Yeah, I think that's probably in his future anyway. You shoot yourself in the twig and berries, and then say, oh, I got jumped by some brothers, man. Yeah, the brothers jumped me and shot me in my dick and my balls. And then they find out you really did it. Yeah. I'd say dick pills and a name change are going to be in that guy's future either way. So, thanks, Louie. I'm glad you enjoyed that one. Let's see what else we got here. This is from Drew. He says, hi, Josh. I was doing some random research concerning the ancient Amorite mound builders. A new character I just recently came across is Colonel Charles Whittlesey, an early explorer for the Smithsonian, along with the track of pre-Columbian copper mines. This guy looks to have been a point man for gathering and suppressing knowledge about the mound sites and the existence of the people and the culture from the past. But there's one very intriguing blurb from a U.S. Gen Web archive. Quote, among other discoveries of Mr. Whittlesey in connection with ancient earthworks of Ohio was that the mound builders were two different races of people, the long-headed and short-headed, so-called from the shapes of their skulls. Now, that's interesting because the Caddo Indians are who inherited the area, inhabited the area, probably inherited as well, because they came way, way, way later after the rock wall had been built. But they were the indigenous Indian populations around the rock wall area that had inhabited that area. And I had no idea until recently when I was doing some research that when Fernando de Soto came across Texas on his expedition, he was completely dumbfounded to find that these Caddo Indians in the area right near the rock wall all had elongated skulls. And I freaked out about that because I had never heard of that. And, of course, this elongated skull thing is undoubtedly them mimicking the people who they believe to be their gods. And he also said that they had a strange tradition, this strange thing that they would do when they greeted you, when they met you for the first time, where they would wail as if they were crying like crying women or something. And he just could never explain what's the purpose of that. His geological survey of the Lake Superior region determining the abundance of pure copper in the area spurned on the so-called copper rush. When people complain about the revolving door between the government and corporate world, well, they probably don't know Charles Whittlesey, former military man, lawyer, and Smithsonian employee who worked for the federal government. Hat trick. Yeah, former military lawyer and Smithsonian employee. Put that aside. Long-headed and short-headed skulls is new to me. How legitimate is his claim? I haven't come across this claim before. I didn't know how much. Yeah, well, you found another example of this. To me, that's significant. To me, that's huge, Drew. Here I've talked about the Hopewell mound builders who existed around the area of these ancient copper mines in Michigan, who were seeded with knowledge and information from these Amorites. The ancient texts from the Middle East talk about the Amorites being ran out of what is now Palestine by the Aramaeans, who, of course, spoke the language Aramaic, which Jesus supposedly spoke, and all that stuff. Yeah, Drew, I mean, so let me put it to you like this. So we have indigenous populations around the Ohio mound builders and around the Hopewell mound builders of the copper mines in Michigan, and the indigenous populations of the Caddo Indians around the rock wall area, all with these elongated skulls, and these skulls where they were either born that way or they were elongating them to mimic who their gods were and who they looked like. When the conquistadors first started showing up down in South America and Peru, the local tribesmen, everybody just gave it up to them because they showed up and they had beards. And they looked exactly as the stories that had been handed down about their gods, these Amorites. So that's who they thought they were when they showed up. And, of course, they got taken lock, stock, and barrel after that. So thanks, Drew. Yeah, you're definitely right on point there, buddy. This is from Patrick. Patrick says, hi, Josh. After listening to your reading of Stitchin's There Were Giants Upon the Earth, I went to look further and found this one. Maybe it could be interesting, and that's why I'd like to bring it to your attention. I don't know who Glenn W. Chapman is, but it seems there are several sources involved. Joseph Smith, I do know, of course. In 1969, construction workers excavating a site for a factory near Terracina, 60 miles from Rome, bulldozed into a pit containing a row of 50 tiled coffins. Each coffin contained a skeleton, all of which were between 6.5 and 8 feet tall. State archaeologist Dr. Luigi Calavucci, who analyzed the find, noticed that the bones were remarkably well preserved, and all the specimens had been males and in their 40s when they died. The conservative suggestion was that this had been a group of special Roman legionnaires chosen for their height, but there were a number of problems with this theory. First, the skeletons were not abnormally tall due to pituitary overgrowth. Rather, the bones were well proportioned and healthy, meaning they belonged to a truly giant race and not of short Roman stock. Second, no Latin inscriptions were found with the remains to date them to the Roman period. In fact, no inscriptions were dug up whatsoever, leaving the age of the remains very much in question. And third, as researcher John T. Battle noted, Roman soldiers were buried with their uniforms, armor, and weapons. Their military trappings were placed beside them in their coffins, but there was nothing in these coffins except bones. Without a doubt, the highest concentration of giant bones and giant artifacts are to be found in North America, which sheds light on a peculiar aspect of the forgotten history of this continent. The Desert Weekly of Salt Lake City, Utah, reported in the issue of March 14, 1891, a discovery made by workmen digging the foundation of a new hotel in Crittenden, Arizona, 50 miles southeast of Tucson. 8 feet below the surface, the workers came upon a huge hardened clay sarcophagus. And prying the lid open, they found a granite case. Granite, yet again. A granite case containing the skeleton of a man 12 feet tall. The unknown giant had long hair, wore a bird-shaped headdress. That sounds like some inky stuff right there. Unfortunately, by the time investigators arrived to examine the find, the bones had crumbled to dust. About that same time, and in the same area, in an abandoned Indian cliff dwelling south of Winslow, Arizona, a cowboy came upon an enormous human skull. Author Jesse J. Benton, who recorded the incident in his book, Cowboys by the Trail, tells how the cowhand put his own normal-sized Stetson on the giant skull in comparison. And this goes on to some other stuff from, these giants have been found everywhere, all over America. In neighboring Nevada, I've talked about those, the Lovelock ones and all that. Yeah, they're everywhere, man. But, hey, I appreciate you sending that to me there, Patrick. Good stuff. Let's see what else I have in the emails. Oh, where'd it go? I had one that I really wanted to read. One more. Where did it go? Give me just a second here, folks. God, I hate when it happens. Oh, it's driving me crazy. Where is it? It was just fucking here. Bear with me here, guys. Oh, I'm going to have to read this on the other side. I have to find it. I can't find it. I mean, it's just here on my front fucking pages of emails. I can't believe I can't find this now. Well, I remember what the gist of it said, so I'll just answer the question. Wanted to know what I thought about fucking Jordanius Maximus, Larry Pine. Oh, you probably didn't know that. That should answer your question right there. And Joseph P. Farrell. The Joseph P. Farrell thing, I addressed that a couple of weeks ago when I started reading his book and realized he's, I talked about that a few weeks ago. Jordanius Maximus, Larry Pine, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's pictures of that guy with Michael Eisner and George Lucas and stuff like that. The guy's a plant. He always has been. He's there to basically misdirect you. He blames everything on sun worshipers. I don't know what else to tell you. Most every one of these guys, these researchers that have been predominant for years and years, have turned out to be not working for the right side. Because, again, it's not what they talk about. It's what they don't talk about,
Uncensored, no-holds-barred talk. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the Global Reality Radio Network.
All right, back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. It's good to be back with you yet again. And apologize there for not being any shows for the past couple of days. But as I said, man, I've been busy and I've been at work and I've been busting on this. I haven't really had a lot of new stuff to report on the front of the filmmaking because I've sort of been at a standstill without a budget and sort of been just kind of, well, not only that, but I don't like to let out everything. I don't let all the spoilers out of the bag, but I just, man, oh man. I've did one trip back in April to shoot. This trip, I need to do about 2 more, and I'll be set. But it's just amazing. Well, actually, I could stand to do more than that, but I mean, it's minimum. I need to do 2 more. I'd like to do more than that if I had, $5,000 or something to work with. It'd be a lot easier. But I've just had to do what little I can when I can, when opportunities arise and whatnot. But it's just amazing that both of those times out, I've come across new revelations, and it's just, it's just a totally different thing. And I've said for years that, at some point this research has got to go beyond, there's only so much research you can do reading text, you know what I mean? And I've gotten a long way and found out a lot of things that way, but it's just nothing beats going out in the field and getting the actual data yourself. So that's the biggest thing. While we've got to find some kind of funding source for this stuff real quick, real soon, just because if we don't have funding, at minimum to pay for travel expenses and the expenses it costs to go out into the field to go to these places, then we're not going to get any new information. But every time we have new information, new revelations have come to light, and it's given me renewed vigor for the project and everything else. So we just have 2 or 3 days left there on the Indiegogo campaign fundraiser for the film. Go to my website, theglobalreality.com. On the right-hand side of the page, under the blue chip and banner, you'll see the Lost Secrets of Ancient America widget there. 10% funded. We've raised $200. 3 days left. We need to reach as much of that goal in the next few days. I mean, if we could reach all of it, that'd be fantastic. Somebody wants to come in at the executive producer level, $2,000 level, you're going to get hooked up. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, if somebody comes in at the executive producer level, you're going to get about a fucking 10-pound rock in the mail. I'm going to send you. That's one of the things I'm going to send you out of the big box of stuff you'll get. But yeah, you're going to get samples of these rocks yourself, so you can have them and have them for your collect. I mean, there's no telling what kind of energy these things have. But stuff like that. Anyway, please go there and help us out with that. We also have the chip and banner for the bills, the operating costs, and for our 5-year anniversary fundraiser. My work over the past 5 years has been leading up to this. And the reason we're having the 5-year anniversary fundraiser is to be able to have just a little bit of cash to be able to bring you more information and to make this film and to get it out there, because, folks, I can't iterate it to you anymore how important this is. If you can't understand how important this is from what I've said and from the trailer of the film and everything else, I don't know what else to tell you. You show me anybody else who is on the cutting edge of something this important out there in the entire research world, folks, and I'll kiss your ass. Nobody is. So please help us out. Dig deep. Somebody out there, please be our knight in shining armor or something and come forward and help us get this thing funded so we can do this work. We're going to get through some news tonight. I'll cover as much as I can. Then we'll get into our series of readings. So I'm just going to cut it half and half, and I'll get as much of either one as I can done tonight, because there's a lot of news piling up here for the past several days. I need to get through at least some of it. This is sort of right in line with what I'm talking about. I mean, if this kind of thing is coming out as a cover-up that's been covered up for years and years and years concerning asteroids and minerals and that, then it stands to reason that what I was telling you earlier about Homeland Security and Barrier Hill and the Buchanan Dam there would stand to reason that it's possible they're covering up something there as well. Listen to this. I saw this story when I got back. Actually, I saw it yesterday, and to me, it just seemed synchronistic with my experience over the weekend. Russia reveals shiny state secret. It's awash in diamonds. Russia has just declassified news that will shake world gem markets to their core. The discovery of a vast new diamond field containing trillions of carats, enough to supply global markets for another 3,000 years. The Soviets discovered the bonanza back in the 1970s beneath a 35-million-year-old, 62-mile diameter asteroid crater in eastern Siberia known as Papagai Astroblem. So the Russians have known about this since the 1970s. They've kept it covered up. They have one of the, if not the world's just largest cache of diamonds anywhere. And that's what I've been wondering, with all those rocks and rare earth metals and everything else down there in that area. I think with some sort of new, satellite imaging and satellite detector technology, I think they found something in that area of Lake Buchanan that they didn't even know existed back in the days before it was flooded over, in the days of Westinghouse and Edison, when they were down there and they owned that area. So this, to me, just really dovetails with this entire thing of, the asteroids and these rocks and the cover-up. They decided to keep it a secret and not to exploit it, apparently because the USSR's huge diamond operations in Mirny in Yakutia were already producing immense profits in what was then a tightly controlled world market. The Soviets were also producing a range of artificial diamonds for industry into which they had invested heavily. The veil of secrecy was finally lifted over the weekend, and Moscow permitted scientists from the nearby Novosibirsk Institute of Geology and Mineralogy to talk about it with Russian scientists. According to the official news agency ITAR TASS, the diamonds at Papagai are twice as hard as the usual gemstones, making them ideal for industrial and scientific uses. The Institute's director, Nikolai Pokolino, told the agency that news of what in the new field could be enough to overturn global diamond markets. The resources of super hard diamonds contained in rocks of the Papagai crypto explosion structure are by a factor of 10 bigger than the world's all-known reserves. We are speaking about trillions of carats of diamonds. By comparison, present-day known reserves in Yakutia are estimated at 1 billion carats. The type of stones at Papagai are known as impact diamonds, which theoretically result when something like a meteor plows into an existing diamond deposit at high velocity. The Russians say most such diamonds found in the past have been space diamonds of extraterrestrial origin found in meteor craters. They claim the Papagai site is unique in the world, thus making Russia the monopoly proprietor of a resource that's likely to become increasingly important in high-precision scientific and industrial processes. The value of impact diamonds is added by their unusual abrasive features and large grain size. This expands scientifically the scope of their industrial use and makes them more valuable for industrial purposes. Russian scientists say the news is likely to change the shape of global diamond markets, although the main customers for the super hard gems will probably be big corporations and scientific institutes. Yeah, cutting devices, laser devices. I mean, this is just absolutely huge. But it goes to serve the point that, here's one country like Russia keeping this geological mineral cache a secret for years and years and years. Not a stretch to think that that's going on right here in our own backyard as well, at least not with my evidence, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go. Enormous Roman mosaic found under a farmer's field. Now, I love how they call this a Roman mosaic. And people go, oh, wow, they found a Roman mosaic in this guy's backyard. Well, yeah, I guess that's to be expected when you're in Rome. Yeah, only problem is this was not in Rome. This was in Turkey. And to me, it looks much more like this Canaanite, Amorite, Phoenician type of stuff we've seen, which really predates any of the Roman stuff, but because that style is always associated with Romans, that's what they always assume it is. A giant poolside mosaic featuring intricate geometric patterns has been unearthed in southern Turkey, revealing the far-reaching influence of the Roman Empire at its peak. This is much older than that. The mosaic, which once decorated the floor of a bath complex, abuts a 25-foot-long pool, which would have been open to the air, said Michael Hoff, a University of Nebraska Lincoln art historian and director of the mosaic excavation. The find likely dates to the 3rd or 4th century. The mosaic itself is an astonishing 1,600 square feet, the size of a modest family home. And they continue to find archaeological anomalies in that part of the world, in Turkey and that whole area. Warp drive may be more feasible than thought, scientists say. A warp drive to achieve faster than light travel, a concept popularized in television and Star Trek, may not be as unrealistic as once thought, scientists say. A warp drive would manipulate space-time itself to move a starship, taking advantage of a loophole in the laws of physics that prevent anything from moving faster than light. A concept for a real-life warp drive was suggested in 1994 by Mexican physicist Miguel Alcubierre. However, subsequent calculations found that such a device would require prohibitive amounts of energy. Now, physicists say that adjustments can be made to the proposed warp drive that will enable it to run on significantly less energy, potentially bringing the idea back from the realm of science fiction into science. And, this is something that it seems that they've known for quite some time, and they're rolling it out now because they've actually been working on these drives and this technology for quite some time. In fact, supposedly they've been working on these exact drives in a secret program going on at the NASA Ames Research Institute in Ohio. And they've got a floor in that building. And several years ago, I read several news articles on the show about people who were working on this secret. All they would say is they were working on some sort of advanced propulsion system. That's all they would say, is that it was an advanced propulsion system. But the floor level at the NASA Ames Research Institute where this work was going on, this secret project, almost everyone who worked on the project started dying of multiple types of cancers. So that led many, including myself, to speculate that whatever they're working on there is probably some sort of warp drive system that uses some sort of nuclear reactor. And, of course, you'll remember in Star Trek, as I mentioned here, their warp drives, of course, were basically nuclear reactors. You can, if you remember Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Khan! Killed my son, you son of a bitch. But you'll remember, the warp drive's going fucking tits up, and Spock goes in there and fixes it and saves everybody, and, gets irradiated and dies and the rest of it. But, I think the reason they're coming out with this now is because it's a foregone conclusion. They don't have to speculate about it anymore. It's here. They've got it. They perfected it. It's just a decision on when they want to roll it out to the general public and let you and I know about it. Strange mystery spheres on Mars baffle scientists. A strange picture of odd spherical rock formations on Mars from NASA's Opportunity rover has scientists scratching their heads over what exactly they're looking at. This new Mars photo by Opportunity shows a close-up of a rock outcrop called Kirkwood, covered in blister-sized bumps that mission scientists can't yet explain. At first blush, the formation appears similar to so-called Martian blueberries, iron-rich spherical formations first seen by Opportunity in 2004. They actually differ in several key ways. This is one of the most extraordinary pictures from the whole mission, said rover mission specialist investigator Steve Squires of Cornell University at Ithaca, New York. In a statement, Kirkwood is chock full of a dense accumulation of these small spherical objects. Of course, we immediately thought of the blueberries, but this is something different. We've never seen such a dense accumulation of sphericals in a rock outcrop on Mars. And, again, they're, finding out all kinds of, I think in the end, what a lot of stuff I've seen so far definitely entails some kind of great cataclysm happening there on Mars, and that's been talked about for years and years. Well, this has some interesting terminology in this article here. It's talking about these different types of viruses. And one of them, and they call them giant viruses. And it's very strange. I mean, the terminology they're using, I don't know, maybe you won't draw the same thing from this I am, but the way they're phrasing this and talking about this, it sounds like these viruses are like a separate type of virus. And I don't know. It seems like they may have come from giants, for lack of a better explanation. Researchers have debated whether viruses which have genes but no cellular structure should be considered forms of life. A new study suggests they should, showing that giant viruses have some of the most ancient protein structures found in all organisms on the planet. The researchers conducted a census of all protein folds occurring in more than 1,000 organisms in the three traditional branches on the tree of life: bacteria, microbes known as archaea, and eukaryotes, giant viruses, which are considered giant based on the size of their genomes. See, that's what got me. They're giant based on the size of their genomes. So their genome size is different than normal giants, the normal germs or viruses. Also were included in the study because they are large and complex, with genomes rivaling some bacteria. So that's very, very interesting stuff there. And because they're so ancient, it makes you wonder if these were indigenous to the Earth or whether these traveled here piggybacked on something else. I don't know. Boy, the guy shooting his dick off and his twig and berries and blaming it on some street thugs. That was definitely our Darwin Award winner. But We have a new award, actually. We've actually never given this award out on the show. And we have a new winner for our first-time award. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to give away our Sexual Deviant of the Week. Yes, indeed. Come on down, sir. You are the winner of our Sexual Deviant of the Week. Sexual Deviant of the Week. A Florida farmhand arrested for having sexual contact with a miniature donkey. Explained to cops that the Sunshine State was backwards, since its residents frown on zoophilia. Carlos Romero, 31, was collared yesterday and charged with misdemeanor sexual activity with an animal. And I love in this article they have the guy's mugshot. You can see his face. But then they have a picture of the donkey, and they have a little, like the red bar over its eye, so you can't see the donkey's. Oh, my goodness. Investigators report that a witness last month spotted Romero pictured in the mugshot right up against the rear of the donkey, apparently having sex with the animal. Donkey fucker. Maybe that's an award we should give out. Donkey fucker! Yes, Donkey Fucker of the Week. You, sir, go directly to jail. Do not collect $200. Do not collect anything except the fucking shame and humility of knowing you fucked a donkey. Can you imagine being in jail? Hey, man, what you in for? Oh, drunk driving, man, yeah. Hey, buddy, what you in for? You did what now? Ah, damn, son. I mean, you know, in this day and age, really, I mean, you got fleshlights, pocket pussies, all kinds of internet porn. I mean, really. There's just, see, that's the whole thing. This guy didn't just do this because he was horny. This guy did this because he likes it. That's a totally different kind of sexual deviant. You know what I mean? I understand. You know, I guess I could. No, that's a stretch. I could never understand having sex with, you know, a donkey. But my point is, you know, if we were still living in the, you know, Stone Age times where, you know, there were multiple. I mean, dude, you can go down and get you a stroke mag or something. You know what I mean? If this guy was just needed to get off, I might could understand this. But that's not the case here. This guy actually seriously enjoyed it. In fact, he told the cops they were backwards for frowning on this. Romero, who was shirtless and had his pants pulled down away from the donkey when he spotted the witness who had been delivering a horse to the barn he rents. When interviewed by cops on Friday, Romero made a series of shocking admissions. It began by saying he uses his fingers and saliva to clean the donkey's clitoris and check for wood shavings and debris, adding that he gets aroused by seeing an animal in heat. This guy is a Class A donkey fucker. Such a fucking face, donkey fucker. Romero reported that he stands behind the donkey, scratches her withers, and masturbates. Yes, that's good quality stuff. It must have been good because this guy's got a shit-eating grin on his face a mile long in his mugshot. You know what I mean? Most people are grimacing and you know, depressed. Oh, I'm in jail. This guy's smiling like $100 bill, dude. He's like, ha, 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 ha. Yes, sir. I just got me some doggy poo. I don't give a jail. Take me to jail. Yeah, hell yeah, it was worth it. I would do it again. I would do it again. Oh, man. He also revealed that he likes the way the fur feels on his testicles. That's a direct quote right there. Quote, likes the way the fur feels on his testicles. Well, you know what? It's hard to argue with that, isn't it? I mean, why'd you do it, man? Why'd you sick bastard? Why'd you fuck a donkey? Man, I like the way the fur feels on my nuts. Feels good. Oh, my God. He also added that his penis may have come in contact with the donkey's vagina by accident, and that his semen may have splattered inside the donkey by accident. Oh, by accident, huh? Yeah, accidentally there, Inky boy. I accidentally put my penis. I may have accidentally put my penis inside of that donkey, and I may have accidentally sprayed my load all inside of it. It was all accidental, though. Because, I was rubbing up against it. I had my penis out. I was rubbing up against it, and that fur, oh my goodness, that fur just started rubbing up against my testicles, and I couldn't hold myself back. I had to put it inside and blow my load in that donkey. After recalling that he masturbated with the donkey 5 or 6 times, Romero stated that Florida is a backward state and people frown on zoophilia here. I don't know what state you come from, buddy, but as far as I know, it's frowned on in every state. I mean, maybe we should find out what state fucking donkeys is okay in and send all the donkey fuckers there. We can have the donkey fucker state. How about we turn Rhode Island into Zoo Island, and we'll just turn it into Zoo Island. You know how every state has their, it's like Florida, the Sunshine State, Texas, the Lone Star State. Well, it'll be Zoo Island, the donkey fucker state. Yes, come here to Zoo Island and get your fuck on with any animal you like. Carlos Romero is your guide and host, and he will teach you all about the way the fur feels when it rubs up against your testicles. My God. Well, you got the award, buddy. It's going to be hard for there to be any sexual deviant that tops you, but I know in this day and age, it probably won't be hard. I haven't, I swear to you on my life, I have not read this entire story yet. I've just read the headline here. But I'll bet you $1 this guy was some patriot, probably Alex Jones listener, shitting himself with fear sauce, thinking the New World Order's coming around the corner. Probably buying all kinds of shit, Jew gold from Ted and everybody else. $7 million in gold bars found in reclusive man's home a month after he died. A Carson City recluse whose body was found in his home at least a month after he died left only $200 in his bank account. But as Walter Semesco Jr.'s house was being cleared for sale, officials made a surprise discovery. Gold bars and coins valued at $7 million. See, why can't this be one of our listeners, that kicks the bucket or something and wills us $7 million in gold bars? Now the fucking state's going to get this shit. Nobody had any clue he was hoarding the gold, adding it was found in storage boxes in the house and the garage. Well, maybe he wasn't a truther. Maybe he was just a weirdo. I don't know. It just seems like most of the people who would be hoarding that much gold have been getting fear sauce pumped into them by, Jones and Ted Anderson. The 69-year-old Samasco was found dead in his home in late June after neighbors called authorities. He had been dead of heart problems for at least a month. He had lived in the house since the 1960s, and his mother lived with him until her death in 1992. He left no will and had apparently no close relatives, but using a list of those who attended the mother's funeral, Glover's office tracked down Arlene Magnaz, a first cousin in San Rafael, California. Our goal is to get the most money to the heir, Glover said. The gold coins had been minted as early as 1840s in such countries as Mexico, England, Austria, and South Africa. Why is it that South Africa always comes up, that always comes up with the gold bugs, doesn't it? The people who, the Jew gold salesmen, people who are the radio networks that sell doesn't a lot of that gold come from South Africa? Based on just the weight of the gold alone, Glover estimates their worth to be at $7 million. Because some of the coins appear to be collector's items, the value could go much higher. Neighbors told authorities they knew very little about Simasko other than the fact that he was quiet and not a problem. Simasko was anti-government. Oh, here we go. Here we go, son. Who called that shit? Who called it? Daddy called it. Simasko was anti-government. Carson City, Nevada's appeal newspaper reported. And a few conspiracy theory books were found in the home along with several guns. I told y'all. I smelled it. Ain't no way, dude. I'm telling you, man. There's no way any regular citizen who wasn't being pumped to the hilt with fear sauce from Jones and the other gold salesmen, not just Jones. He's not the only one. Let's not put all the blame on him. There's many other networks and radio hosts out there who push this gold and fear-mongering on people. So it's not just him. He's the most predominant. So, and plus Ted Anderson, that whole operation. I doubt anybody's moved that much gold as much as those guys have. So it really wasn't a stretch. He never went to a doctor. He was obsessed with getting diseases from shots. Simasko also had stock accounts of more than $165,000 and another $12,000 in cash in the house. Glover said he wants to start selling off the gold as soon as possible. The IRS wants a share of the total, he said, and the case is relatively simple other than the agency's involvement. You know, look, that's a shame. I mean, this guy's anti-government. You know, he had conspiracy theory books. He was hoarding cash and gold. And then he kicked the bucket. Think about how many resources that could have went to. Think about if that guy would have been one of our listeners. But what's going to happen now? The government's going to get their hands on it. They're going to get a cut. And inadvertently, all the money and all the gold that this guy saved and hoarded because of the fear sauce is going to ultimately go back to fund the very government he was afraid of. So, you know, listen, if I just want to put this out there and be straight up about this. If there's anybody out there in our listening audience that is hoarding this kind of thing, like this much gold and cash, for goodness sakes, at least keep the stuff boxed up with a note near it or something that says, you know, in the event of my untimely death, this should go to, you know, so-and-so, Josh Reeves or whoever. You know, don't just hoard all this stuff and then allow it to be raped and pillaged and taken by the enemy. You know what I mean? Another interesting story on asteroids here. Starting and finishing with a bang, did a giant meteorite kickstart the age of the dinosaurs? Every school will knows the story of how the dinosaurs were wiped out by a giant asteroid 65 million years ago. But an intriguing theory has arisen suggesting that the dinosaurs may have an asteroid to thank for their existence. With an asteroid possibly sweeping away all contenders 201 million years ago, allowing the terrible lizards to rise to the top of the food chain. Paleontologist Paul Olson and geologist Dennis Kent of Columbia University have been exploring the theory and looking for evidence that an asteroid did strike the Earth, causing the Triassic-Jurassic extinction. Over the past 450 million years, life on Earth has undergone at least 5 great extinctions when biological activity nosedived and dominant groups of creatures disappeared. The final one so far was 65 million years ago, when it appears that a giant meteorite brought fires, shock waves, and tsunamis, then drastically altered the climate, which killed off the dinosaurs and set the stage for mammals and eventually us to evolve. Many scientists are now starting to think that we are on the edge of a 6th extinction, this one driven by human destruction of other species and their habitats and our quickening releases of carbon dioxide, blah, 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 bunch of horse shit. But anyway, nonetheless, interesting that you have now an asteroid tie into the beginning of life and the end of life. Makes you wonder about some of this other stuff. I mean, I think there's no question that area I was down there this weekend, Lake Buchanan, Beringer Hill thing, It's just an unbelievable area. I can't believe there's an area that close to, 4 or 5 hours away from where I live where, there's no question that something hit that a long time ago, and they've just been crushing up and bulldozing through rock for years to get any kind of habitation going down there. I'm done with the news for tonight. We'll save the rest for tomorrow night. We'll get into more for you here on the show. I want to get into at least some of our reading for you here tonight. All right, chapter 2, in the days before the flood, from There Were Giants on the Earth in Those Days, from Zechariah Sitchin. Enlisted by King Ptolemy Philadelphus circa 270 BC, Mantheo, whose name means men of Thoth or gift of Thoth. Wow. So Mantheo's name means gift of Thoth. That's interesting. Almost like he was, the gift of Thoth, meaning, seeded from his bloodline or something. That's interesting. Mantheo, or gift of Thoth, compiled the history and the prehistory of ancient Egypt in 3 volumes. The original manuscript, known as Egyptica, I'm trying to see how do you pronounce that. Egyptiaca? Okay. Egyptiaca was deposited in the Library of Alexandria only to perish there with other irreplaceable literary and documentary treasures in natural and man-made calamities, including its final burning by Muslim conquerors in 642 AD. We do know, however, from quotes and references in the writings of others in antiquity, including the Jewish Roman historian Josephus, that Mantheo listed gods and demigods as reigning long before human pharaohs became kings in Egypt. The Greeks were not completely ignorant of Egypt and its past, certainly, since the historian come explorer Herodotus visited the land 2 centuries earlier. On the subject of Egypt's rulers, Herodotus wrote that Egyptian priests said that Men was the first king of Egypt. True to apparently the same sources, Mantheo's list of pharaohs also began with one called Menes in Greek, but it was Mantheo who was the first to arrange the succession of pharaohs by dynasties, an arrangement followed to this day. Combining genealogical affiliations with historical changes, his comprehensive list of kings gave their names, lengths of reign, order of succession, and some other pertinent information. What is significant in Mantheo's list of pharaohs and their dynasties is that his list begins with gods and not with pharaohs. Gods and demigods, Mantheo wrote, reigned over Egypt before any human pharaohs did. Their names, order, and lengths of reigns, fabulous, fantastic, scholars say, began with a divine dynasty headed by the god Ptah, ancient Egypt's creator god. Ptah, who reigned for 9,000 years, Ra reigned for 1,000 years. Yeah, these guys were immortals. Shu, who reigned for 700 years, Geb reigned 500 years, Osiris reigned 450 years, Seth reigned 350 years, Horus reigned 300 years, and Seven reigned 12,300 years. Wow. Like his father Ptah, Ra was a god of heaven and earth, having arrived in earlier times from the planet of millions of years in a celestial baroque called the Ben, meaning pyramidian bird. The pyramidian bird, he arrived in a craft called the pyramidian bird. Here we go again. Fucking Klingon bird of prey, baby. It was kept in the Holy of Holies of a shrine in the sacred city Anu, the biblical On, better known by its later Greek name, Heliopolis. Though benefiting from unbridled longevity and playing a role in Egyptian affairs for millennia to come, Ra's reign as Ptah's successor was cut short abruptly after a mere 1,000 years. The reason, we shall find, was significant to our quest. The first divine dynasty that ended with Horus, Mantheo reported, was followed by a second one headed by the god Thoth, another son of Ptah, but only a half-brother of Ra. Its reign lasted a total of 1,570 years. In all, Mantheo said gods ruled for 13,870 years. A dynasty of 30 demigods followed. They reigned a total of 3,650 years. All in all, Mantheo wrote, divine and semi-divine rulers reigned a total of 17,520 years. Then, after a chaotic intermediate period that lasted 350 years, with no one reigning over the whole of Lower and Upper Egypt, Mian began his first dynasty of pharaohs ruling over a unified Egypt. Various modern archaeological discoveries that corroborate Mantheo's pharaonic list and order of succession include a document known as the Turin Papyrus and an artifact called the Palermo Stone, so named after the museums in Italy in which they are kept. Of course they're in Italy. Why would they be anywhere else? Oh, yeah, they're just Egyptian artifacts, but they need to be held in Italy, in Rome. Yes, that's where they deserve to be. Why? Of course, because the priests of old who had this technology are now the priests of today, and they are the same keepers of this knowledge and this information. They want to hoard it and keep it all to themselves. The corroborating finds also include a stone inscription known as the Abydos list, in which the 19th dynasty pharaohs Seti I and his son Ramses II, who reigned 1,000 years before Mantheo's time, depict themselves carved on the walls of the main temple in Abydos, a city in Upper Egypt. It lists the names of 75 of their predecessors, beginning with Mena. The Turin Papyrus corroborates Mantheo's divine, semi-divine, and chaotic interval lists, and including subsequent pharaohs, names a total of 330 rulers, just as Herodotus had been told. The famed Egyptologist Sir W.M. Flinders Petrie excavated a group of tombs in a most ancient cemetery on the outskirts of Abydos. Stelas that served as tombstones and other inscriptions identified the place, located beside a purported tomb of Osiris, as the burial grounds of First and Second Dynasty pharaohs. The sequence of tombs from east to west began with one bearing the name King Menes. Petrie identified tombs bearing the names of all of the First Dynasty pharaohs, and in his master work, The Royal Tombs of the First Dynasty, acknowledged that the finds confirmed Mantheo's list. Moreover, he found tombs with the names of pre-dynastic kings, nicknaming them Dynasty Zero. Subsequent Egyptologists have identified them as rulers during the chaotic period listed by Mantheo, corroborating that part of his listings too. The importance of such corroborated data goes beyond the issue of divine and semi-divine dynasties in pre-pharaonic times. It throws significant light on the subject of the deluge and pre-diluvial times, since it is now known with certainty that pharaonic rule began in Egypt circa 3100 BC. Mantheo's timeline takes us back to 20,970 BC. Climate and other data presented in my books, The 12th Planet and Genesis Revisited, led to the conclusion that the deluge occurred some 13,000 years ago, circa 10,970 BC. The resulting difference of 10,000 years is exactly the length of the combined divine reign of Ptah, 9,000 years, and the abruptly cut short reign of Ra of 1,000 years. This is a significant synchronism that links the Mantheo timetable to the deluge. It suggests that Ptah reigned before the deluge and that Ra's reign was abruptly cut short by the deluge. It confirms the reality of the deluge and its timing on the one hand, and the veracity of Mantheo's divine and demigod data on the other. Astounding as this synchronism is, it is not merely coincidental. The Egyptians called their country the raised land because at one time ancient lore said it was inundated by an engulfing avalanche of water that completely flooded the land. The god Ptah, a great scientist, came to the rescue. On the Nile River's island Abu, also called Elephantine for its shape, near the river's first cataract in Upper Egypt, Ptah formed a cavern in the mighty rocks and installed in it sluices that controlled the river's flow, enabling the ground downstream to dry out. Literally, in Egyptian eyes, raising the land from under the waters. The feat was depicted in Egyptian art. The modern Great Dam at Aswan is located at the same site near the first cataract. These events may well offer an explanation why the god who then assumed reign over Egypt was called Shu, whose name, dryness, bespoke the end of the watery catastrophe. His successor bore the name Geb, meaning he who heaps up, for he engaged in great earthworks to make the land even more habitable and productive. Yeah, there you go, mound building, Geb, he who heaps up. He's heaping up the land to make earthworks, to make the land habitable. There, early mound builders. Like pieces in a jigsaw puzzle, all these diverse facts add up to an Egyptian record of a deluge, a great flood, circa 10,970 BC. To these tidbits of Egyptian prehistory concerning the deluge, one can add the fact that as a way to unify Egypt, Mien emulated Ptah by creating an artificial island in the Nile where it began to branch out into a delta and built there a new capital dedicated to the god Ptah. He named it Men-Nefer, the good place of Mien, Memphis in Greek. Like Greek history and art, the history and prehistory of ancient Egypt cannot be divorced from the active presence and physical existence of its gods. Wherever one looks or turns in Egypt, the statues, sculptures, depictions, temples, monuments, texts inscribed and illustrated inside pyramids or on coffin lids or on the walls of tombs all speak of name and depicts Egypt's gods and its leading pantheon. Whatever had been recorded and depicted before Mantheo's days and discovered after his time corroborates his lists of pharaonic dynasties. Why not also accept the reality of gods followed by demigods as rulers in Egypt preceding human pharaohs? And so we'll stop there for tonight. We'll get more into that tomorrow. Boy, it's getting interesting. I can't wait to read more and more and more of this. It's actually good reading here. Lots of good information. Again, not a, got to say this every time I read, otherwise I'll get 100 emails. Not a endorsement of Zachariah Sitchin's work at all, but this has been the most requested stuff for me to read, and it's very interesting for us to read it for ourselves and separate the wheat from the chaff, decide what's the good info and decide what's not, rather than just, going on everybody else's opinion of what Sitchin has put out, deciding for ourselves what's what, I think is the most important thing. But we're going to wrap it up there for tonight. It's good to be back with all you guys. I missed you all, and I've just been busy at work, and really I got to get back to it. I've got more stuff I got to work on here on this end. But this is our 5-year anniversary. We've only got $120 so far of our fundraising goal. Please help us out. Please help us reach our goal. Whatever you can do, if you can support the film, if you can support the fundraiser, whatever it is. But please help us now. TheGlobalReality.com. Thanks to everybody out there who has supported us. We couldn't do this without you. And we are running low, especially after having to go pay for the trip and all that stuff this weekend. So anything we can get in, folks, is going to help us a whole lot. So please bear that in mind. My name is Josh Reeves, and I love each and every one of you. We'll see you tomorrow for the show. You guys have a great one. Take care.